Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
I have no extra expenses, no bills out of my living. I have one credit card that's maxed because I've lived off of it, but other than that, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 10 years. We have cell phones, but, you know, that's required to live on. But other than that, nothing extra. On paper, my bills are $2,701. My income is $2,710. Do the math. $9 a month before I pay for food, gas, car repairs, any entertainment. There's no money for that. And my car is dying. It's paid for, so I don't have car payments now that I'm going to replace. And I don't know how to do that on $9 a month. $9 to feed myself, $9 to buy a car, $9 for insurance. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is me because I worked 8.5 hours a day knowing that it's not enough, that it won't be enough. Fuck you, Ontario.
This is the motherland. Look how green it is. Yeah. The motherland is so beautiful. Yeah. So beautiful. We call it a stereotype, right? A stereotype is when people think negative of something based on an information that they got. The information might have been biased at the time it was being passed, or rather the information might itself have been information that was corrupted in order to fit a certain narrative, right? People have always associated Africa with poverty. People have always associated Africa with a place of suffering. Look at this place. Look at this place. This is tea. This is tea that you drink in the United States of America. and I'm working in the plantations. Suffering is something that does not choose which generation or which race. Anyone can suffer, anyone can be afflicted at the problem of poverty, right? You understand that Trump also, if we put this into consideration of what's happening in America, you understand that Donald Trump, you understand that Donald Trump himself was a man with whom the president, Donald Trump, the preso, you see, Donald Trump brought about the policies of oppression, the policies of taxation. Countries, if they bring things to United States of America, they are highly taxed. But if America takes things to other countries, Trumps expect them not to be taxed, right? And this inflation brought about a high cost of living, a high cost of products. When things used to be around $1, for instance, when inflation that was brought in by Trump is added into that, it becomes now $2, right? And now this is a very, very much worrying problem. You can't say that it will be $1 to the white people and $2 to black. No, we don't have such kind of economics existing, right? Not in that manner. So white people have come up front and they're really suffering and they are confessing that America is really, really not a good country. Abari? So, America in itself, Trump and his policies are even affecting the white people themselves. So right now they are saying they thought that it was only the immigrants and the black people who would be suffering, but no, poverty cuts across everyone. It is not like black people are cursed to suffer poverty. And this video is going to be a great revelation into that. I want us to listen to the great lamentation of these brothers and sisters from the USA. I shall get back by the end of the video, of course, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis. Let's dive in.
Conservatives and anyone who believes in right-wing ideology are really pitiful people. Look at it this way. We live in such a cultural and historically rich world. There are 195 countries in the world with so much beautiful music, cuisine, amazing art and history, and amazing people. And so rather than embracing this vast, beautiful earth that we live on, conservatives have chosen to make their world small, to live in this delusional reality where there has to be hierarchy amongst countries and cultures. And as someone who's traveled to more than 30 countries now, I think it's one of the most pathetic things ever. Because what I've learned from traveling and speaking to people from all over the world is that there are so many beautiful things that link us together as people. I remember when I first moved to Germany and I was learning German, and I found a linguistic connection between German and Jamaican patois. So in Jamaican patois, we say shub, which means push. And I remember one day in my German class, we learned the word for push, which is schubst. And I was like, that can't be a coincidence. So I decided to Google it, and I learned that there is this German-Jamaican connection where Western Germans moved to Jamaica after slavery was abolished and ran plantations there. And that's why we have Germantown in Jamaica. And a lot of white Jamaicans have German ancestry. And there were so many times where I was living in different countries or even traveling, and I saw a type of food, a piece of art that reminded me of somewhere else. And an integral part of traveling for me is sharing parts of my culture and perspectives with other people. But what you'll find with a lot of right-wing people is that they have a weakened sense of self. Their cultural identity is extremely weak, and this is why they have to rely on the hierarchy and the subjugation of others to feel like they have some sort of belonging in the world. They can only experience belonging by feeling better than someone else. Whereas a lot of us who have strong cultural ties, we don't need that hierarchy because a lot of us already know who we are. We have a strong sense of culture and belonging. And I think it is one of the most privileged things to have. Going through this world with open eyes and open arms and fully experiencing life for what it was meant to be. Beautiful, not this miserable existence being plagued by hatred, but it's really hatred for themselves that they love to project onto other people.
Just finished a morning run, sweating bullets, but I have to say this while I'm thinking about it. Almost every week, I see someone ask the question, why are white men so angry? And while I cannot begin to expound on the many reasons why that might be, what I can say is this: I view all social problems through a lens of societal systems, because as a sociologist, that's what I'm trained to do. And here is the design flaw in systems of privilege. When you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, when you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, the privilege is actually what weakens you. The privilege makes you weak because when you socialize an entire group of people to believe that I exist, therefore I deserve. I exist, therefore I am entitled. I exist, therefore the path of prosperity should be laid out very cleanly ahead of me, and I don't have to work hard, and I don't have to struggle, and I don't have to dig deep. I just have to receive. Meanwhile, you are socializing all other groups to survive with less resources, with less privilege. And so as a byproduct of their survival, they are becoming adaptable, resilient, creative, resourceful. They are developing the muscle for survival that they subsequently turn into systems for success and prosperity. Meanwhile, the privileged group is not developing these systems. And when they start to see the disenfranchised group becoming stronger, gaining opportunities, building systems of success, rather than say, hey, maybe we ought to be doing that too, no. Privilege doubles down. Privilege digs deep into the well of anger and grievance and says, you are the reason why I can't be successful. You are taking opportunities away from me and my children and generations. And so now, rather than develop the muscle of resilience, what I'm going to do now is start taking privileges away from you. And now I'm going to start taking your resources, and now I'm going to start burning your house down in hopes that you will get back to where I think you ought to be, which is underneath me. Not realizing that the more you do that, the more privileges you take away, the more systems of success you try to dismantle, you are only making them more creative, more adaptable, more resilient, and more resourceful. So it becomes this Ouroboros, this snake eating its own tail, because the very system that you designed to uplift yourself is actually the one that is putting you far behind, because you never develop the muscle, the work ethic, the resilience, the innovation, and the creativity as the disenfranchised group.
So it's being said that young white men have been radicalized because they've been disenfranchised. And there's some truth to that. But I believe that their disenfranchisement has been the result of the unfulfilled promises of privilege. Like, their complaint is that, I'm 27, I'm 30 years old, and I have no financial, economic, or romantic prospects. And newsflash, that's literally what people of color and marginalized groups have been complaining about for decades, for generations, about their lack of prospects in this country. That has actually actively led to their disenfranchisement, well, our disenfranchisement, because I'm one of them. But we worked and we learned our way out of that so that we wouldn't be in position where we elected into leadership our actual oppressors. See, young white men don't view or identify older white males as their oppressors because they look like them, because they're their dads and their uncles. But unfortunately, the fact that those promises of privilege have not been fulfilled for them, that the entitlement that they have been raised in, and ingrained within them, the fact that all of this is yours and for you, and, as divine by the will of God, and none of it should you have to work for, which is part of what their complaint is. And they don't want a competitive space in a competitive world. The chant in Charlottesville, Jews will not replace us. This fear of being replaced because in a competitive marketplace, you haven't been bred for generations to compete. You have been told that you were entitled to all of it, and it is your birthright. So you haven't competed. You haven't improved yourself. You haven't built skills to put you in a place to compete with the people of color who have been told their whole lives for generations twice as hard for half as much. But again, the radicalization of these young white males is just the unfulfilled promises of privilege. But now you find yourself in a space where you are facing the same world as the groups that have been marginalized by your fathers and your grandfathers. So I think the solution is to actually find yourself unifying with these marginalized groups who have worked so hard to scale and achieve. And I know that's a big blow to your ego, because you've been told your whole life and for generations that they are less than you, that they are beneath you, that they are inherently genetically inferior to you. Which I understand how that contributes to your rage, because these people who you have been told and made to believe are inferior to you have accelerated far beyond you. But that's not their fault, because they were never told that they deserved all of it by birth. It's the fault of your fathers and your grandfathers who withheld this from you. No immigrant took your job. Your father and your grandfathers and your uncles gave them to them. They preferred them to you because they will work harder for less money. The solution for you is to work harder and to unify with these people so that we all can live in a competitive society with fair compensation for fair work. And right now you're at a point in history where you have the choice to either unify with the oppressed or identify with the oppressors. Make the right choice.
Y'all want to know one real reason why America's crashing out like crazy right now? Mediocrity don't hit like it used to, baby. See, once upon a time in America, you could be real mid and still thrive. Mediocre effort, boom, you get a house, car, annual vacation, pension, hell, maybe even a boat. You could clock in, coast through the week, grill on Sundays, and still retire with dignity. But that era is dead and gone, baby. And instead of leveling up or adapting, they're mad, they're bitter, and they're not even blaming the billionaires. They blaming you. They have the audacity to blame me. They blaming immigrants, black people, queer folk, anyone they think is taking something that used to be theirs by default. See, they don't want equality. They want comfort. And when mediocrity no longer gets them that comfort, they start rewriting the rules to rig the game again. It ain't about fairness. It's about preserving the lie. The lie that being average should still be enough for them.
So the white Americans are in Mexico as usual, causing problems for the Mexican citizens there. I mean, how dare you go to someone else's country to retire? Because you're a guest, literally, you're a guest there. This is not your home. You're there, you're retired, whatever you're doing, vacation, and then y'all go there and complain about what they do every day that's a part of who they are, their culture, and their way of life, because it inconveniences you. And then now some of y'all upset that they're taking to the streets and protesting your existence in their country. Your existence there. They're destroying your properties that you have built, the businesses that you've built there, that's driving their economy up, the cost of living up for them. And y'all upset. Go Mexico, keep up the good work.
Can someone please explain to me why conservative white men feel they are under attack in the United States? Because the last time I checked, every single U.S. president has been a man. Only one of those men has been a man of color. White men have never been enslaved in this country. White men have never been denied their right to vote in this country, nor has that ever been on the fucking table. Just because people want the same rights that you've always had doesn't mean that you're the victim.
Oh, you want to know how poor white Americans are treated underneath the post about white privilege? Alright, let's get into it. Poor white folks are screwed by the system too, no doubt. Poor white Americans face poverty, unemployment, crappy health care, and a failing education system. It's tough, it's brutal, and it's wrong. But guess what? You're not also dealing with systemic racism on top of all of that. White privilege doesn't mean you're living in luxury. It means that you don't have the added weight of racial discrimination. You don't have to worry about being shot by the police at a disproportionate rate for looking too suspicious. You're not getting followed around stores just because of your skin color. You're not getting your job applications thrown out because they sound too ethnic. That's the privilege right there. It's the shit you don't have to think about every damn day. Imagine being poor and then on top of that, facing a world that is rigged to suspect, ignore, and punish you based just on the color of your skin. That is what people of color have to deal with. The system is screwing everyone, but it's got an extra special screw job for people of color. So, poor white Americans are treated like crap, absolutely. But they're not getting the double whammy of poverty plus racial discrimination. That's what white privilege is. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's the absence of a second set of chains. Open your eyes and see the whole picture. The system is broken for everyone, but for some, it's downright brutal.
Yeah, and I am not surprised. I think this directly speaks to the massive disconnect from humanity that comes along with being a white-bodied individual. And like I was talking about in the video, I think, you know, it's very telling when white people are like, why isn't anybody doing anything? And all the communities outside of whiteness are like, what the fuck do you mean? Why aren't you doing anything as a white person? And then the response is, I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do. We are not, as a white collective, built for this shit. We as a collective do not have the survival skills, the community, the regulation skills, the mental health, the conflict resolution skill. We don't have any of that. And so this is what, again, pushes us further back into our own individualism. And the thing, I talked about this at a different platform yesterday, but our individualism not only will kill us, but it is in fact killing everyone else right now, because our collective individualism has pushed us into complacency. And the wild thing is, I know that response that you gave is not only the truth, but white people would hear that and take offense to it, right? And then simultaneously want to say, hey, I got a fucking blue bracelet, or I'm safe. But then the response is, oh, nobody cares, nobody likes me, why would you say that? Like, we're just in a constant state of panic and meltdown. And I think, you know, for allies, accomplices, again, whatever fucking buzzword it is this week, the rubber is meeting the road. And I think so many white people are saying that they gave themselves that label that actually didn't mean shit. Because I can performatively on this app all day say, you know, I stand with the black community. I stand in solidarity with all these other communities. And then when shit gets real hard, we're like, oh, let me protect myself first and foremost, and still try to pretend like I care for everyone else. That's not how it goes. And our complete lack of humanity and our inability to be empathetic to anybody outside of ourselves, and barely towards ourselves at times, is so clear. And I know it's clear to every other community outside of whiteness, but I think there's a lot of white people that we're looking at each other like, what the fuck? I thought you cared. Oh, I thought you cared. I thought you cared. I don't know what to do. What are we going to do? And white supremacy is coming crashing down. And the outcomes of that is violence towards everyone else that doesn't look like me. While at the same time, that individualism that most white people choose is collectively suffocating everybody.
So I'm not really sure how I made it over to the white men crying on video about their finances side of TikTok. But I was over there for a little bit. And at first I was like laughing because it's like FAFO, right? Because like y'all voted for this and now it's affecting you. But then I started to think, like, these are normally the people that, and so to see them online in this much disarray where they're on video crying in full tears about their finances and how mad they are, y'all be safe out here.
So there's a proverb that says, if you make your bed, so you must lie on it. And that very principle is a principle that says ignorance is not an excuse, right? Ignorance is not an excuse for the law, because the law says if you act in a certain manner, then you receive punishment that is accorded to that activity, irregardless of whether you knew that you are doing wrong or not. But this is different. This is not a cause and effect thing. This is a different thing, because you find that the white people knew very well who Trump was in the first place. They knew very well. This is not the first time Trump is in power. It's the second time. And what Trump did in the first time was enough to show his character and what he was going to do. It was not like a rocket science. No, it wasn't that. It was easier to understand. It was easier to see, right? So they voted Trump because they wanted Trump to do their dirty job. They wanted Trump to come and do something that they really had no power to do. You see? With the power that Trump is holding as the president of the United States of America, he's able to make certain groups of people move or be kicked out of the country of the United States of America. And that is what he did. He did deport many of these individuals. And we cannot say that the white people of America have always liked, not that much. Some of them have always had problems with black people. An example is that community that was in Arkansas, the white-only community. So they say no gays allowed, and then they add no blacks allowed as well. No blacks and no gays allowed. It's only a white-only community, right? That is enough to tell you what these people were planning for them to vote in Trump, regardless of what they knew. So this is just a time of paying consequences. It's a time of paying the repercussions for their actions, right? And remember one thing, everything you do, you will always be met with the consequences. And that is what they're paying right now. Maybe you have some ideas, maybe you have some thoughts about this. I may really want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, I would really love to hear your thoughts. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Yeah. See you in the next one. Stay positive. This is EFK Original Documentaries.